So this is the Ice Bear Maddog scooter that I picked up for 300 bucks from Craigslist. It is a Honda Ruckus clone. Clone probably isn't the best descriptor for it. It's an approximation of a Ruckus. It's got a Honda, not a Honda, excuse me. It's got a Chinese GY6 engine in it. I wish it had a Honda engine in it. But I've worked with GY6 engines before, and they're not bad. If you take care of them and clean them up, they tend to go quite a long time and can be pretty good power plants. The only thing that was really missing on this scooter was the back case for the battery box. I've got one of those coming, and as you can kind of see, it wasn't running. So the reason I got it for 300 bucks was because the engine wasn't running. I'd seen it on Craigslist several times, and every time I saw it, it was a little bit cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So I picked it up for 300, and the guy didn't understand why it wasn't running. The electrical works fine, turns over, but there was zero compression. So knowing that there was zero compression, I had some suspicions, and I pulled off the top end. And that's the actual top end, which it looks okay. It's not, but I'll show you what the real problem, or the real indicator of the problem was. So this is the rocker arm assembly, and it wasn't like this in the engine, but when I took it out, it just fell apart. It literally came apart into a dozen pieces. It was so over-torqued. This is what it should look like. Actually, it shouldn't look like this, because this is the exact same rocker arm assembly, and it is for a short engine, a 64 millimeter engine. So let me show you what I got here. I realized that this was a long engine. Rather, the valves are long. It is actually a long engine, but the valves are long. So you can see right there, this little guy right here, when it's poking up, means that you have a 69 millimeter valve on it. And if you hold it sideways, you can see they protrude quite a bit above the top end there. So it's 69 millimeter, and it had a short 64 millimeter rocker arm assembly. So it was over torqued. And what do you think happened to the valves? Each one of those valves is absolutely bent. I took it apart. I put it back together because I just didn't want to lose all the good parts, but the valves are absolutely trash. So I think that this head is fine, but I ordered a new one anyway because I didn't want to futz around with it anymore. I'll save it if it turns out to be just fine. I'll pull out the valves and toss those and just have a spare on hand. But I suspect that by this time tomorrow, I'll have this thing running. It came with some nice features. I mean, the brakes are really nice on the front end. They're decent hydraulic brakes that they grab really nice. I rolled it around, and I was happy with that. It has a really interesting exhaust on it. A stainless exhaust is pretty heavy. It's hard to tell, but you can kind of hear when I put it down. You can hear that that's not hollow or light. And, I don't know what makes it quite so heavy, because there's nothing in there. Doesn't seem to be much baffling, but I don't know. I'm sure this thing's going to be pretty loud. I can't imagine that it's going to be very fast, maybe 25 miles an hour, because the back wheel on this tire is a monster. I think maybe the minimum would be 150 cc to make this thing really move. So whether or not a 50 cc that's been upgraded to, I measured the new bore diameter, and it's 47 millimeters, so it's about an 80 cc engine. at this point. I can't imagine that this is going to move very fast with, you know, that much rubber in the rear. And this thing is not light. These engines are fairly heavy, but this frame, I mean, it's like it's made out of lead. I don't know how this frame, what the material is, but it's not the really cheap Chinese metal. It's it's pretty rugged stuff. So hopefully this will turn out to be a good rider, and I don't know if I'll keep it. Maybe I will, or maybe I'll just sell it. But hopefully by this time tomorrow, it'll be running just fine.